So what is what is the difference between line chart and the bar chart or column chart? When do we use line chart? When do we use the bar chart or the column chart? Line chart works well for time and bar charts work well for categories. If you want to compare the categories side by side, then you can go for bar chart. Okay, and if you want to understand the trend, then you can go for line chart. Then what is the difference between, see, in here we have stacked bar chart, we have stacked column chart, and we have stacked 100% stacked bar chart. See, these two charts are related to stack, and these two these two charts are also related to stacked. Now you tell me what is the difference between stacked and 100% stacked bar chart, and when do we use stacked bar chart? Can someone tell me? Okay, I will unmute Anuradha. Okay, yes, go ahead, Anuradha. Tell me what is the difference between. Now the question is, yes, I explained you the difference between line chart and bar
Sir,
chart. Yeah.
line chart, when we will use it's over the period of a changeover. Changeover over the period of a time for line chart, okay?
Hmm.
And then stacked bar, stacked means it's one after one, part to whole.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Part to whole, one it will be like one after one. Cluster means it's a side by side view.
Okay.
If it is categories only minimal, for example, take two types of categories, we can easily go through the stacked bar or horizontal, because it is one after one. When some cases, suppose for example, it's more than three or four categories, that time we go for a cluster, because it's a side by side view, right? We can easily identify.
Okay. So, okay, to summarize, right, the line chart works best for time series data. So, if you want to understand the change in data, or if you want to understand the trend, right, so when is the peak and when is the valley, right, so when the sale went high, when we could see the dip in sales or revenue, so we can go to understand the trend, we go for line chart. And to compare data values across categories, then we can use the column chart, right? So column chart or clustered column chart. If you want to compare one category with another category side by side, in that kind of situation, you can go for
Cluster.
clustered column chart. Okay, and when will you use stacked bar chart? You said to compare or to find out or to understand the part to whole relationship, we can
Yes,
go
yes,
for stacked bar chart or stacked column chart.
yes, yes.
Now, what is the difference between stacked and 100% stacked? It is not.
This
It's
is
very
Alex.
simple. It's very simple.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. So the stacked bar chart will hold all the number and it will show the lower end and upper end, right? In the 100% stacked bar chart, it will always stay in the 100% for all the categories, but the only difference will be that it will be categorized and the numbers will be shrinked to fit the 100%.
Excellent.
So it
Right.
doesn't matter whether it's higher or lower in the number, it will always convert that to fit the 100% of all the chart.
Excellent, right? So here it shows the values in terms of percentage. It converts the, so look here, I just enable the data label for this one. It shows the for each stack, right, for each rectangle, for each category. In this case, the category segment. For each segment, it shows the value, right? So it shows the value as it is, okay. But whereas instead of showing the value, it shows the percentage for each segment, right? If you add all these things, it should sum up to 100%. You need to remember this one, right? So, yeah. So that is the difference between the 100% stacked and a stacked chart. With the stacked chart, we can understand the part to whole relationship. Okay. That is the difference between these two. Okay, the next one is we discussed about table and matrix visual. What is the difference between table and visual? Sorry, table and matrix visual.
So matrix, it shows the hierarchy.
Okay.
In matrix, it has four.
So the table has 2 dimensions and matrix has more dimensions.
Matrix three-dimensional and table is a two-dimensional view, and it returns only the columns. But in case of matrix, it returns both rows and columns, and it is a pivot table, and it has a hierarchy. And matrix again, it has some hierarchy level also. We have so many options like drill down, drill up, drill through, like that. 4 options will be there in hierarchy. So that when compared to table, matrix is more.
No. It is not for hierarchy. Okay, you have with matrix we have the drill down functionality enabled. Okay, with table it is not available. The other difference is table is 2-dimensional, whereas matrix is multi-dimensional. And if you want to add any columns, right, to your table, it considers them for each new column. When you try to add it in the values field of your table visual, it considers them as a new column. Whereas in the case of matrix, when you try to, you can add columns to rows and you can add columns to columns field. You remember in matrix, I just go here, matrix. So that is the advantage of using matrix. And aggregations, column, row level total, and column level total, and row level, column level subtotal, and row level subtotal, everything is possible with matrix. That is also one of the salient features of matrix. And stepped up feature is available with matrix, and drill down functionality, pivoting and unpivoting you can do with matrix, right, without spending too much of effort, right? You can just by swapping the columns between rows and columns field, you can pivot and unpivot the tables, right? You can do pivoting and pivoting by that. 1 second, I'll just go here. I don't know where. Yeah, this is my matrix. This is the one I created the last session. So I'm talking about these 3 fields: a rows field and columns field and values field, right? So if you want to add a row, if you want to add a row based on another, let's say region, right? Region is a column in my data set. When I included region as part of rows, this becomes a row. You can add dimension to rows, nothing but the columns. You can add dimensions to your columns also. And other beauty of matrix is you can do drill down row wise and you can do drill down column wise also. Okay, the rows are not fixed in table. Okay, but the rows and columns are not fixed in the case of matrix. Okay, rows and columns are not fixed here. Okay, you can increase the rows by including as many dimensions, as many columns as you want it, and the same is applicable in the columns field also. Okay, remember this. So okay, next what we will do is, this is the difference between table and matrix. Next we will jump into understanding a pie chart and donut chart. What is the difference between pie chart and donut chart? Any idea? Even we use pie chart for the part to whole comparison. If you want to perform any part to whole comparison, then you can go for using pie chart, and also you can use donut chart in place of pie chart, because the donut chart is also an extension of pie chart only. It is similar to pie chart. The only difference is you can find the hole in the center. This hole is helpful to specify any labeling. You can specify the label inside of this hole, so that you can use the space efficiently, right? You can save space. It is more space efficiency compared to pie chart. Okay, so otherwise it is more or less same, but in the case of pie chart and donut chart, we compare each piece to the whole. Here also this piece we compare to the whole, okay, rather than comparing each piece with other piece, right? We don't do that. We are not supposed to do that when it comes to pie and donut chart. So we want to, for example, if you want to know what is your market share, right? So compare to right. So in that case you are not supposed to say I compare to my competitor, right? So our market share is 57% or 60%. We say that that way, right? And okay, and the sum of the donut chart and pie chart must it should add up to 100%. So this one, and this one. So here we could see three pieces or three wedges. I call this a wedge. If you sum up these three wedges, it should add up to 100%. And when I'm not supposed to use pie chart or donut chart, when am I not supposed to use that one? If you have so many categories, it will be cluttered. In that kind of situations, don't use pie chart or donut chart. Instead, you can use a tree map, or you can use bar chart. If you have so many, or if you want to make comparison between groups. So see, bar chart is not an alternative to this one, okay? And if you have so many categories, right, so in that case don't use the pie chart or donut chart. Instead you can go for other type of charts like tree map. Or if you want to make comparison between groups, I want to compare this group with this group, then you can go for bar chart, right? So, and because if you have more, and the other scenarios, like if you have more categories, what will happen? You will have too many skinny slices, right? So if you have very small skinny slices, it will be very difficult or hard to read them. It is kind of a mess, okay? And the other scenario is if all the wedges sizes are in equal size, right? All the slices are equal in size. In that kind of situations, it is not helpful. So you don't have to use the pie chart or donut chart. And the next one is the pro tip when it comes to coloring. So what kind of color can I use it for pie chart? So again, the color and other specifications, as part of design specification, the customer will give us. But these are the commonly used, the practice. The commonly used practice when it comes to color is don't use rainbow-related colors. And also, the important part of your slices, right? Important part of slices to make it stand up, right? So you can give some bright colors like this, okay? So these are the important parts to me. So you can give some bright colors, and others you can use some shades of the similar color or something like that. But don't ever use the rainbow color. It is much striking, okay? So they don't, no one prefer these kind of colors, right? It is not a good practice to use rainbow kind of color. So in that kind of situation, don't use it. And when it comes to labeling, don't label inside the slices. If your slice is small already, and if you try to label it, it causes, it will be mess. It will be cluttered, right? It will be clumsy. And first of all, when you use tools like Power BI, Tableau, you cannot, it doesn't specify the label inside this slice, okay? But when you use any other off-the-shelf tools or Excel, right? If you happens to, if the label appears as part of the slice, it is not the good practice. You can keep the label outside of this slice. Okay, that is one pro tip you need to remember it. And group similar categories. You have so many skinny slices, multiple categories are there. Probably you can come up with some strategy to combine all the categories which are having less number of data. You can combine it into common or other categories. Okay, so that you can avoid having so many categories plotted in your pie chart or donut chart. Okay, so what do you mean by group similar categories? For example, I have here 3 wedges are there. Okay, and I have some other rest of them. I have rest of the groups I could see less number of data in it, hence it looks so skinny. So what I do is, in that kind of situation, I simply group them into a common category, others. You can specify it as a others category. Okay, that way you can make sure that you are overcoming these kind of issues. The next one is the tree maps. Tree map, when do we use tree maps? First of all, what is a tree map? If you want to display the hierarchical data as a set of nested rectangle, you can go for tree map. Tree map is used to show the composition of a whole. In other words, to show parts of whole, right? In that kind of situation, you can go for tree map. Let us go and see how to create both the pie chart and donut chart, and side by side we will compare tree map also. So this is my tree map. And the next one is this is my pie chart, and this is my donut chart. Okay, I just will go one by one here. If you have only 3 categories, it is good, right? So what if you have multiple more categories are there in a single column? For example, when I use subcategory, we can see a lot of skinny slices here. What I do is I just go and drag and drop. I just select this one now. And here I just now if you compare these two, this one looks so clumsy. Even if you resize this tree map visual, can still make out, right? You can find out the part to whole, right? So the technology contribution is more, and technology copiers within the technology is a category. For each category, different colors used here by default. And let me just for different category, different colors are used here in both. But here, if you see, right, the colors, you need to change the color here, right? So technology and furniture and office supplies and subcategory also I use it. What I do is I just go and remove category here, and I just include subcategory. If I put subcategory, the colors got assigned automatically. Both of them are more or less same. Okay, in the interest of comparing these two, okay, to make a better choice of choosing the right visual. Sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah. Which one is clear? Which one is clear? This one or this one? Which one is clear? What is your, which one is your choice? This one is pretty clear, isn't it? For example, if I reduce the size of this one, tree map, very good, right? So tree map is the best choice. Even if you reduce the size here, it doesn't look clumsy, isn't it? Still you can make out which subcategory we made more sales, right? So look here, even the tiny thing also you can make it out. So this one and this one also you can make it out. But whereas if you look at this one, right, the skinny wedge here, difficult to make out, right? Which subcategory does this belong to that, right? It's difficult, but so with the tool tips only we should be able to understand. But here also we can understand, but though the sizes are small in for the supplies subcategory, but still it is, with this we are able to make it out, right? So we can make out very clearly here. Okay, so in the case of tree map, it is the arrangement is typically a rectangular area. It is divided up into a smaller rectangles to represent the subcategories. The size of each the size of these subcategory rectangles, right, represent a quantitative value here, and by default it sorts the value in descending order, so that we can see the items or categories which we sold it this or the items or the categories which had the higher sales. We can see it on the left side, right? Left side. On the right bottom, on the right side and right side bottom, we can see that the sales in the categories where we made less sales, right? So that is what we can see it here. So here, right? So compared to these two, this one is pretty clear, right? So you can make out or you can gain insights even though if you resize this, then still you can get the insights clearly. So you can also use the formatting options for tree map. I just enable this one, yes. And also if I drag and drop another category here, category column here, so you can see that in technology, this subcategory, right, this subcategory is falling under technology, and this is falling under different colors, office supplies and furniture. We can see that. Ideally we should have done this way, okay, and it should be opposite, category and subcategory. We put it here. It will be pretty clear. I just remove this. So technology, this is technology category and furniture category. In each category, it shows us the sales for the subcategories also. So now you understood the difference between these two, right? So when it comes to the user experience, from the user experience point of view, obviously this is the best friend, right? This is the best choice compared to pie chart. When you have more number of categories, better you can choose charts like tree map or so, okay, instead of using this one. So one way you can address this kind of issue, like I discussed, you can group all these skinny things into a common category. If you can do that, you can do it. No, you don't have any option. You cannot mix up the skinny things into a common thing, right? Then you can go for tree map like charts. This is better than pie charts. Okay, and what are the other options, formatting options? Yeah, I think so you can change the colors, everything, right? So with this one, data colors, you can change it, right? So as per your requirement, you can change it. And what other big thing? Yeah, SOAP you understood, right? The difference between these two you understood. So next, what will jump into ribbon chart. Ribbon chart is also one of the important chart. Okay, using a ribbon chart, we can quickly discover which category has the highest rank, and also it shows us the change in the rank. Along with that, we can find the highest value also, highest value, and then the change in the rank also we can find it out. I'll just show you how to create the ribbon chart and also help you how to interpret the ribbon chart. So this is how, once you populate the data, this is how the chart will look like this. So what I do is I just use the same thing. I'm not going to use the same thing. So what I do is I just use different columns here, subcategory. And let's use sales itself, or we can use units sold also. So when it comes to ribbon chart, it is always good. You can use the time series related data in your x-axis. So what I do is I just I'm going to use year here. So here I use the column. I just brought in the year column here in the axis field. So in this case, the year is an x-axis. Okay, and the values is sales. You might be wondering, I selected ribbon chart, but now it shows the column chart. Okay, so when you look at this column chart, you can easily make out that we can see an increase in sales. We can see highest sales in 2014 compared to other years. This is the top performing year for us. And 2011 we started the company, and every year we could see, year on year we can see a growth in sales, and 2014 the sale is high. Next, what I do is, when you create a ribbon chart, right, when you use the axis and the values, right, it will create the column chart only. If you want to if you want to display, or if you want to create a ribbon chart format, you need to use some column in the legend column. So here what I do is I just go and select subcategory. Instead of using the typical subcategory, I'm going to use this one here. So on top of the visual, we have something like focus mode. I click on this so that the size will be bigger. The interpreting them will be pretty simple. Okay, here we can see the legend here. Okay, so for different categories, different colors are used here. So this color is for accessories, this for appliances. And when you look at this chart here, the visual, right, so the highest sales for each subcategory displayed on top of this one, right? The top one shows the highest sales. We'll start look at here. For 2011, the phones we could see 3.20 lakhs and 2.69, 2.51. With this we can understand the highest sales displayed on top, right? The second highest sales displayed in this portion, right? So the third highest sale is here. Similarly, we can see it here also, right? For each year, for each subcategory, what is the sales, we can see it here. Okay, and if I hover the cursor in between these two, right, we have something like, and this one seems to be semi-transparent. It is not fully transparent like this, right? For every alternative a bar kind of thing, right? If you see it in between, these bar, we can see that there is semi-transparent thing. If you hover the cursor here, in the tooltip, you can see it displays the tooltip, right? It shows us the change in value, compared to 2011 to 2002. What is the change in sales value, as well as down here you can see the rank for 2011 and 2012. This is applicable for which category, subcategory? This is for phone sales. And if you go and take a look at here, so it remains consistently rank 1. It goes up. The sale is up. And if you see here, if you hover the cursor here, you can see the phones rank went one rank by down, right? So here rank 1, and so here the rank got changed by 2013 rank 1, but in 2014 it shows 1 here, right? So see, it went one rank high. So it went one rank high in the sense from 2 to 1, right? So it moved from 2 to 1 in 2014. That is what we can make out here. And if you take a look at this one, this is quite interesting, right? And if you take a look at this one, right, so you can see that it goes here and it goes down, it goes up, and it becomes stable here. This one is far more interesting. Which one? This one. Look here. It goes here and it goes here and it goes up here. If you keep the cursor here, you can find out, right? So if you keep the cursor here, you can see that bookcases 2011, and the rank is 3 here, and the same rank is the same rank remains as it is for 2012. And when you go up here, right, so you can see the rank change from 1. So 2014, from rank 4 to rank 3, right, it moved up to 3. So we can see the interesting pattern here for these subcategories. So with this, what we can understand is, for each time period, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, for each time period, what is the change in value compared to these 2 years, 2000 and 2011 and 2012? What is the change in value, as well as it shows us the change in rank also. That is the beauty of using ribbon chart. Okay. Next, what we do is, now I just go to rank. Means it's something in school time, right? Rank, highest sales, higher the sales, higher the rank, right? The rank increases. Similarly in school time, right? So how do we the marks, right? Based on the mark, they determine highest the mark you score, it will fall under rank 1. If the mark is not higher, but it is good but not so high, so in that case you will fall under the second bucket, rank 2. That is what rank is all about. Okay, now now what we will do is, I just go back to the report, and what I do is, I just go to the view, ribbon, and I just go and enable performance analyzer. So here it uses right, it is the ribbon chart. With the ribbon chart, we are able to find out the change in the sales value for each time period, along with the rank also, the change in rank, and the rank for each period also we can see it. So with this, we can understand, right, behind the scene a lot of computations are happening, right? So what I do is, from the performance point of view, I'm going to start recording this. I want to check how much time it takes to refresh this, and what kind of DAX function is using it behind the scene. I just go and select this one. Look here. For this, the DAX query, if you click on it, the DAX query will get copied here. To view that, let's go to the DAX Studio. Don't worry, we'll explain how to use DAX Studio also as part of DAX session. This is open source. You can download it from the internet, DAX Studio. Okay, go to Google and download it. Look here. So a lot of calculations happen because it uses summarize columns function. It is a DAX function, and here it does the for year wise, right? It is doing subcategory wise the total sales, sum of sales for each subcategories. It is doing it, and in between lot of calculations are happening in order to find out the rank here. Okay, and again, so we can check how much time it takes to render the visual for the data set, right? So we can see the 306. Okay, and what we will do is we can we'll create a table and use some DAX function, right? We will do the same thing. We can probably compare, right? Try to optimize the time, but end of the day, the visual is the best one, right? So that is the one will give you clarity. So nowadays the hardware cost, everything is cheaper, right? So the storage space, and most of the companies they started using graphic GPUs, graphical processing unit, but still right, so when it comes to viewing the report, right, the report performance should be faster. So in that point of view, we'll see how we can optimize this one later point in time. Okay, so this is plain vanilla. You don't have to write any DAX function, nothing. You don't have to write complex DAX functions to find the compare the difference between sales, the sales to find out the difference in sales between different period, right? Everything is done automatically. Okay, so now the question is, so here there is no question of right when to use funnel chart. If you want to understand the change in values, you want to find out the change in values, and if you want to know the rank for between years, right, then you can go for funnel chart. It is pretty straightforward. Sorry, not funnel chart, this one, the ribbon chart. Next we will continue with the KPI chart. So KPI, before we go to KPI, I just start with the funnel chart. You have something else called funnel chart. I just select this one. This is what funnel chart, this is how the funnel chart looks like. Okay, this is a dummy funnel chart got created with the dummy data set. So once you populate the data, this one will get populated. So what I do is I just go and check, do I have the data in it here? I just drag and drop the stage and details. Yes, data is available. Good, it got populated with these two fields. You can see two fields here for the funnel chart. One is group, other one is values. So now the question is, what is funnel chart? And why should I use funnel chart? When should I use it? The funnel chart helps us to show the flow of stages. What do you mean by stages? Look here, we have different stages. Inquiries. On the left side of the funnel chart, you can see inquiries, qualified leads, meeting held, proposal form filled, finalized. Various stages are there. In each stage, the values are falling down. Okay, I just quickly run through a simple case study so that you should be able to understand when it is helpful to use funnel chart, right? How you can interpret the values, for that, so how we can interpret the values in funnel chart, right? With that simple case study, you should be able to understand. Let's say you are a marketing manager, you are trying to explore how you can reach more potential clients to grow your revenue share. So in that case, you are doing some kind of opportunity analysis, or in simple term, you are doing sales prospecting. What is sales prospecting? It's very simple. You are generating leads through some third party application or through some Facebook ad or Google ad. You placed an ad in Google, using Google AdWords. You placed some display ad. Even in Facebook also, you placed an advertisement. By looking at the advertisement, let's say 350 customers, they have shown interest and they contacted you. So they say, hey, I'm interested in product or service. Okay, and then what you do is you qualify out of the 350 enquiries, how many of them are qualified leads. Okay, so when they see the advertisement, they might think, right, the product, whatever you are trying to sell it or market it, will meet all their requirements. But when you start discuss with them, right, so they get to know, okay, hey, these features are not supported, and finally it boils down to 160, right? So here, close to how much, 290 customers got dropped. So their expectations are different, right? So what they write, so they expected something from the product what I sell it. Since their requirements are not meeting, right, so they dropped off. 290 customers got dropped. Okay, in this phase. So we are also qualifying the leads. We say, hey, this guy is expecting so and so feature, so our product is not giving it, hence these customers will not be a potential customer for us. So we are qualifying the leads. Out of 350, we qualified 160 leads. And next, out of the qualified leads, so 120 customers, they attended the webinar, whatever we conducted, and out of which 90 customers, they filled the proposal. Okay, and finally 60 customers, they made the payment, they subscribed for your product. So in this case, you can see you can see different stages here. You can see different stages: inquiry stage and qualified leads, meeting held, different stages. So funnel chart helps us to shows the flow of stages, how the values are dropping from one stage to another stage. It helps us to visualize a linear process that has a sequential connected stages. All these stages are related, connected. The funnel chart is used in the case of marketing, and also they use the funnel chart in the shopping cart workflow. So this is the one is helpful to understand or to help us to uncover the bottlenecks in linear process. So when you look at here suddenly, right, so why there is a 50% or not 50%, why here, right, 50% drop in the customers while qualifying that, right? So we can do some kind of analysis here. Okay, with this we are able to understand, right? So though we got 350 inquiries, we are able to convert only 60 customers. So in between, in each stage, how many number of people got dropped off from this? By doing root cause analysis here, right, for each stage, you will get to know, right? So why 50% of the customer dropped off during the qualified leads, or why we dropped them, or whether customer themselves dropped off. What are their expectations? You can do some kind of root cause analysis. You can come up with strategies in terms of converting more number of customers, at least in the next promotional campaign. Hope with this simple case study you understood when you can use funnel chart. In the case of marketing or in the case of shopping cart workflow, customer has they chosen the items, and they selected the items, and then they added the products to the cart, but ultimately they did not make the payment. Not all the customers, they add the items to the cart, right? They are supposed to buy, right? So we call the cart abandonment. So in that kind of situation, how many number of customers added the products to the cart, and ultimately how many of them, right, purchased it. So in between, what are the stages are there? And also with this, you should be able to understand the bottlenecks in the linear process, right? The linear process, and also it helps us to calculate and track conversion retention rates. So these are the advantages of funnel chart. It's pretty simple to create, but only thing is collecting the data. That is where it is a painful process. Okay, having the correct data and collecting the data and maintaining everything is pretty tough job. And when it comes to the design, right, user experience, what kind of colors can I use it? So when it comes to funnel chart, it is recommended to use blue, purple, and green. So these are the one often used to make our funnel chart stand out. You can go from darker to lighter shades also. Okay. So as the funnel goes further down to the final stage, right? You can start with darker and lighter shades. You can use it. Okay. So here in the rolling painter icon, when you click on it, so you can find various options here. So data label is already enabled, and here you can go and data colors. You can change the colors here. Show all. If you select show all, for each stage you need to toggle from off to on the show all option in order to give different colors to different stages. Okay. So inquiries, I'm going to give something some light color. I start with blue here. Okay. You can choose different colors. So blue, purple, green, you just keep that in mind. You can use that one. And the meeting held, you can say, so you can click on more colors. You can write something like light green kind of thing. When you double click on it, and proposal form filled also, you can give little darker color, something like that. Finalized, you can give dark green, something like that. Probably we can change you can change this color also, right? So we can give some other lighter shades here also, so that it will look good, right? So it will not be clumsy, and it will be more it will improve the report user experience. Next, we will move ahead with understanding the important chart, gauge chart. I'm trying to check some other data set. I don't have that data set here. Anyhow, not a problem. So I just go and select the gauge chart. So this is the gauge chart. What is gauge chart? The gauge chart, it shows the minimum. So you have the minimum here, and this is the maximum. You'll have to specify the maximum value here, minimum value here, and the current value. We can use it here. Here we have 2, 3, 4 fields are there, right? 4 and 5 fields. For excluding tooltips, we have 4 fields are there. So what I do is I just use the same sales value here. Instead of searching it, better let me use this feature, sales. Okay, next what I do is I'm going to define the minimum value and maximum value. If you go to either, if you have any column that are available as part of your data set relate to minimum value and maximum value, you can simply drag and drop it. In my case, I don't have any column as part of my data set that is available to bring in those columns here. Okay, so what I do is I go to the format icon, and here I just go and specify target is on, and display units, let it be there auto, and let me just general, it is not, yeah, go gauge axis. You need to select gauge axis. Here we can specify the minimum value. So the minimum value for this one and maximum value for this one, we need to specify it here. So my sale is 11.30 million. So what I do is roughly I go and say some 5 million. So the minimum is 5 million. My minimum is 5 million and maximum is going to be let's say 20 million. Maximum is 20 million, and my target, I'm going to specify my target, let's say is somewhat like 10 million. Hypothetically, will give some hypothetical value. Good. So the moment when I specified the target, the needle got enabled here, right? So it got displayed. The needle got displayed. This needle is target. Okay. The needle represents the goal, the sales goal. So in this case, we are supposed to achieve 10 million sales, but we are, we have crossed the, we have gone beyond the set goal. So what is the minimum and maximum? The minimum is nothing but the minimum possible average sales and the maximum possible average sales. Okay. Right, so what is this blue shading? This is the one sales we achieved, right? What is the actual? This is actual, and this is the target or the goal or the projected sales value. Okay, so we have achieved the sales way beyond the set target or set goal. Okay, and here also you can specify different colors. Okay, you have a lot of color options are available. Here also you can choose. If it is a green, right, so if you are able to achieve it, let's say your target is you specify something like red, and this one is your green, you are able to achieve it, so you can specify green color. Or you can use some other colors also. So this is gauge chart. Hope you understood why we need to use gauge chart. If you want to measure your sales performance, or if you want to measure your performance against the set goals or the targets or the projected sales value, then you can go for gauge chart. With the gauge chart, you can measure the performance, whether we have achieved the performance. Are we falling behind, or are we falling above? So by looking at this gauge chart, now we can see that yes, we are falling above the target. Good. So it's a good sign. And similarly, we have another visual called KPI. This is KPI visual. Using KPI visual also, we measure the performance, the actual, right? The actual, we measure the actual against the set target. Okay. So the same thing, I just go and select. So in this case, what I do is indicate. We have 3 fields are there for KPI: indicator, trend axis, and target goals. Here what I do is, instead of using the sales again and again. I just go and bring in the unit sold, and the target goals. I just simply say the target goals also quantity. I don't have the target goals here with me. And next what I do is the trend axis. What I do is I just simply use some date related columns. Trend axis, I just put this here, or you can use, instead of this, right, you can use quarter. The units sold along the quarters. So we can see that this is the actual and this is the goal, right? It shows plus. There is no deviation, there is no variation here, right? 0% variation. Okay, and since I don't have any target goals column here, right, I just simply drag and drop this. So in this case, the actual is 35.25k. The target or the goal is also same. Since both of them are same, there are no variation here. Okay, so you need to check with your stakeholder about this target goals. What is the actuals and target goals for month on month, right? So we capture month on month, quarter on quarter. We store it in a separate file, and with that you can measure it by dragging and dropping the values for these fields. Okay, so this the behind the scene you can see, right? So the quarter wise trend you can see it here. So the sales is quarter 1, quarter 2, right? We can see some kind of upward. Again it is falling down and it is picking up from here, right? That is what we can see it here. Ideally you can use here also. So the quarter wise, every quarter also they are measuring it. It depends on your org policy. Every quarter, every month, right? There are companies, right? They measure every quarter also. Every month. In some cases, week on week, they are monitoring it. So the gauge chart, with gauge chart and KPI visual, we can measure the performance, right? The actual against the set goals. So what is the difference between this? You can use any one of them, okay? But the KPI is the one we use it. But this one gives quick insight. Here also, right? Both of them are same. You can use either this or that, okay? But both of them use a numeric value, okay? Numeric value. Keep that in mind. That's the basic thing, right? To indicate a progress in relation to the goal. Next one is what are the other things? We have ribbon chart and funnel chart and gauges and waterfall chart. We'll take a look at waterfall chart now. So what is a waterfall chart? So when we can use waterfall chart? The waterfall charts are helpful to show the running total as the values are added or decreased. I explain you. This is the waterfall. Okay, I just clicked on this. First, let us create the waterfall chart, and then we'll explain you how to interpret this one. Here, what I do is we can start with some quarter. So in the case of waterfall chart also, right, we use the time series data in the x-axis, and then what we will do is we just use the sales values here. In something you can find something like waterfall here. I just go and enable this data label. Look here, so 2M, 3M, 3M, 4M, this gives you the running total, right? So total, so all this cumulative total or running total, right? This is the one it gives us. And what I do is, instead of using this one, I just go and select instead of quarter, right? So I just go and select month to see the variation. So starting from Jan to December, so what is the increase or decrease in sales? And I'm going to we have another field called breakdown. If you want to break this down, this chart, let's say I'm going to use segment. Look here. Instead of sales, I just use quantity. It doesn't look good, so what I do is I better use the waterfall chart. Is helpful to understand how the initial values got affected due to changes in increase or decrease of the values. See, for the classic example is the head count, right? So head count, so you have something like a head count comparison. Okay, let's say you started your company in January 2011, and this is where you are now currently, and you want to understand how many number of employees you onboarded or recruited, how many number of employees got resigned. So here you can see that if you expand it a little bit, right, if you resize it, that we can see the values here very clearly. So in this case it is a sales, okay, and so when we started the company it is 0.60 million we achieved, and then we have some kind of loss here, right? So we have we made some sales and we made some loss here under the consumer segment, right? Sales change, there is a loss here. So it shows you the ups and downs here, right? So since the starting date to till date, right? So what is the, for example, if you want to understand what is the net profit, right? So how the net profit got affected? So you made profit, and then you paid the tax and you incurred some expenses, right? After subtracting expenses from your profit, right, so you will get the net profit. So here from February month, January to February month, what are the factors that affected my net revenue? You just think that way. In our case, we're talking about sales. Sales is a net revenue. What are the factors, right? The corporate and consumer and home office, we incurred loss. And what is this one? This one is segment. So your blank value is there. Probably we can ignore this one because of some blank values, and it keeps add the, but here it keeps add the values here. So 0.60, and if you subtract these values from this one, and if you add this value, you will get the running total, and 0.48m, and we can see that the in consumer, all these segment we are able to make money, and here actually we don't have any variation here. It shows something, the blank value, sales change and something like that. Okay, the segment has some values. Let us look at here. So here we can see that the negative values are there. See here, month on month, right? After subtracting the negative values from the positive value, you are getting the running total. And again, so for 0.48m plus this one and this one and this, you need to add all this value, and you need to subtract from this, because this is a negative value. Whatever the red color you see is a negative value, the negative profit. Okay, and after adding and subtracting, what is my running total month on month? We are able, so finally now you are here, you can see that after, right? So with waterfall chart we can get the running total for, in this case, since we have used month, right? So month wise we can get the running total, and also we can see that, right? So how what are the factors that impacted, right? So what are the what is the decrease or increase in sales, right, at various phases? You will get to know that. That is the advantage of using waterfall chart. And instead of this segment, I just use the region. Let us see what happens with the region. So with this, you should be able to understand which region contributes more revenue and which region contributes to the negative performance. So these are the region. Look here, the test, let's say this is nothing but north region negative sales. Look here, when I use the region, it shows the correct picture, right? It is very much helpful. It gives a lot of insight here. North Asia, all these three regions, the sale is bad. Only thing is here, the others, right? Others, the sale is good, but still, right? Again, here also we can see the change in the sales, right? January sales and February sales. What is the difference between the change in value, right? So for January and February, we can see that. Even waterfall, we can check the change in values for each period, and you can see here, right? So green, and here you can see that there is a decline here for EMEA. But end of the day, right, so all these values got added to this one, and that is what you are seeing it here, the running total. So we started here in 2011 January, and currently we are here. So it shows us the increase and decrease in profit or sales, different regions, right? It helps us to understand the increase and decrease and the changes, right? Changes in performance with say region breakdown. We can see that. Hope you understood, right? So this is the one basically helps us to understand the variations, right? When we had it gives us detailed information, right? So the variations, right? When in which region sale went up, and with that we are able to understand which regions are contributing more to the revenue, which regions we are not selling well. So in that case, it helps the stakeholders to make the timely action or timely decision in order to decide whether they can discontinue selling the product in so and so regions. But because the same region, when you see here, right, so we can see an increase in it. So hence, okay, good. Just because 1 month we don't have sales in this region, right, it is not wise to discontinue the sales here. So probably, right, so after seeing this, they would have launched some campaign to improve the sales. Right? Various factors are. So it helped them to understand after launching the campaign, advertisement campaign, what is the, can we see an improvement? So yes, we can see some improvement. Then there is no point in discontinuing sales. But here we can see this. Likewise, right, these kind of charts are pretty much helpful for the senior management to take a make or break kind of decision. Okay. Okay. Next one is the Q&A visual. Q&A visual is pretty simple one. So all you need to just in the white canvas, you just double click on it. It is not coming up. Okay, and okay, since we don't have the data here, this is your Q&A visual. This is the question and answer feature of Power BI. It is one of the exciting features that is available in Power BI. This is powered by artificial intelligence. With this Q&A visual, we can delve deeper into our data and improve or enhance our dashboard creation or report creation with the help of the AI running behind the Power BI tool. What is AI? AI is artificial intelligence. Look here. Here, the natural languages, right? It got generated, and if you click on show all suggestions, it automatically generated this thing, right? So these things here. So you have a lot of options here, right? So it says ask a question about your data here. So you can either click on this one. For example, here I want to check compare sales versus sales month to date. When I click on this, month number 9530, because it aggregated a month itself. Let me just choose something, or else you can ask a question about your data. So you can type your question here. For example, sales by region by quarter. Look here, as and when I type here, automatically it generates the chart. Here you don't have to do heavy lifting, right? Simply type the questions, it generates the charts. And again, if you don't prefer the line chart, and in bar chart, in column chart, look here. So you can ask Power BI a natural language question and get an answer in the form of a visual. That too, whichever type of visual that you prefer, it generates the chart automatically. Okay. So hope you understood the power of artificial intelligence. They introduced artificial related features, right, in Power BI. In the case of key influential, we have something called key influencers visual, and we have decomposition tree. Okay, we have something else called decomposition tree. So these two are, including Q&A, powered by artificial intelligence. Okay. So now you understood the power of artificial. You don't have to spend time. You don't have to sweat too much to, by dragging and dropping. Simply type it. I will give you the chart. And we have something else called word cloud. So I have a nice case study around the word cloud. We can do using word cloud, right? So you can do sentiment analysis. What is sentiment analysis? To understand the customer's sentiment, right? So whether the customer is positive about the product or service, whatever we give it to them, how positive are they? If they are not positive towards the service or product or whatever we give it to them, so right, so that helps us to fine tune our model, operating model, or business processes, or make changes to the product or improve the quality, right? So we can come up with some strategy to improve that. So that one, the sentiment, by understanding the customer sentiment, we can refine our quality or product, include additional features, why customers are running after our competitor. All those things we can see it with the word cloud. We have something called word cloud. And what we will do is, before we go ahead with the word cloud, right? So we will explore another visual, important visual, slicer. I just click on slicer here. This is my slicer. Slicer itself is a visual. Okay. And what I do is, I just go and select category here. So now the question is, so this, what is slicer, and why we need to use slicer? How to use slicer? We'll look at it now before we jump into other type of visuals. Slicer, right? Slicer itself, first of all, slicer itself is a visual. Using slicer, you can apply filter to your visuals that are part of your report. Okay, so what I do is, instead of using this one, I just go ahead with another one. here the data volume is less, hence if I do anything, right, it will be pretty faster. Compared to that one, the volume of the data is less here, hence I use this report. This is my slicer. I just quickly create some visuals. And this is my matrix. I just go to my fact table. I just select the category, not here, the product name. Okay, location. We have created two slices. One is for the location, other one is for category. So before I start discuss about the slices, let me give you some context about the interactive report. Okay, so using Power BI, we can create interactive dashboards, interactive reports. We are no longer interested in static reports. Why? Why we are not interested in static reports? Because it has a lot of disadvantages with it, right? It does not give more insights. It is not user friendly and interactive. We want the report to be dynamic and engaging. Okay. So how do we make our report dynamic and interactive? Tools like Power BI, right, by leveraging the features like drill down functionality and slicers and so on, we can enable your report as more interactive. Okay, slicer itself is a visual. It is sitting on top of your canvas. It is sitting on top of your canvas. It's very user friendly. Using slicer, we can enable the report users to view only the information, or enable the users to apply the filters dynamically by making selections, by making various selections, or making selections, making the combination of selections from various slicers. For example, I select Bangalore now here. In Bangalore, we sold products under these 4 categories. What is the total sales? 2064. In Bangalore, the total sale is 2064. Bangalore is a city. There we made this much of sales. Next, but remember, we sold products under 4 categories and the total sales is 2.604. And Chennai, I just selected. In Chennai, 2.5k. There 2.06k in Bangalore. Though Chennai sale is more than Bangalore, we sold all the products only in 3 categories. By making selections, right, different selections, we are able to get different insights. Right? Using slicer, by making selections, right, with the combination of more than one slicer, or keep changing your selections, right, it enables you to interact with your report. The more the changes, selections, right, you make it, different selections you make it, and also with the combination of different selections using different slicer, you can filter the data. What is slicing? Slicing is cutting. It's something like, cutting, right? So you have the entire data. So you don't want to see the entire data. You want to see only the specific data, region specific data or category specific data. So this is a location specific data. You don't want to see the entire data. If you want to see the entire data, that is also possible. Okay. So using slicer, now you understood our report is very interactive. Since it's being interactive, you are able to get more insights. With more insights, we can come up with different strategies in order to handle handle different problems or issues. Okay, so that's when the slicer is very much helpful. Okay, using slicer we can make selections. By making selection, we are applying the filter to all the visuals in our report page automatically. For example, when I select beverages and along with that, when I select Bangalore in this slicer, so I can narrow down my analysis journey. I am very particular about the beverage sale in Bangalore. Okay. So how do I unselect the selections, whatever I made it? You can do it here. So by default, Power BI reports are interactive. Listen carefully. By default, Power BI reports are interactive. What do you mean by interactive? Supposing when I select this piece in this visual, piece in the sense this column, specific column, when I select it, what happens? This one got highlighted. It applied the filter across the visuals within this report page automatically. Okay, automatically. But it highlights the relevant data across the visuals. You need to remember it. This is called cross highlighting. I'm talking about cross highlighting. The interview, they'll ask you, what is the difference between cross highlighting, cross filtering? When you select any item, for example, so not only single one, for example, if you select 2 specific columns here, these 2 got filtered. So what I do is, for the sake of understanding, I just convert this one also, the bar chart or stacked chart, let it be there. Okay, when I select Hyderabad here, this one got, in this visual, only this column got highlighted, and it applied the filters across the visuals. Even though it applied the filters across the visuals, right? See what happened here. So how do I know that it applied the filters across the visual? It highlighted the relevant Hyderabad relevant sales across different category. It highlighted it. But here, if you see here, this column was not highlighted. So in the case of cross highlighting, when you select any column, specific column in this column chart, right? It gets highlighted, and then it applies, or it highlight, right? It highlights, right? When you select any specific thing, it highlights the relevant data across all the visuals, and also it retains the irrelevant items also. So by looking at this chart, okay, Hyderabad related sales, we can see it. So where we did not sell, in which category we did not sell? Personal care. Oh, we did not sell personal care. In the personal care we did not sell. Okay, the next one is, yes, in frozen foods we made 1.8k, and here we made 2.293. Each category how much we made, right? So but it shows both the relevant and unrelevant or irrelevant items also. But for the relevant items, it it enables the highlighting here in the case of bar chart, stacked bar chart. But when it comes to matrix, it displays only the relevant items. You need to remember this. Cross highlighting is applicable only for the specific type of visuals, not all the visuals. When it comes to matrix, it displays, look here, it displays beverages, frozen foods, and dairy and dry fruits. It is not displaying the irrelevant category personal care here. Let me just expand it. Let us see if this one, dry fruits, yes, this is the high level, right? Drill up, it should show everything, all the category. The cross highlighting is applicable for specific visuals, but visuals like matrix, it displays only the relevant items. Okay, in my report I have the combination of matrix as well as the column chart like this, but my end user, the report users, they are saying that they are not happy with this one. They get confused with the highlighting option, cross highlight. This is called cross highlighting. When I select any piece or any single value in this visual, this one get highlighted, and also it highlights all the relevant items across the visuals except a matrix and other visuals, but it displays the non-relevant or irrelevant items also. We are getting confused with this one. So here it is highlighted all the relevant items, but it dimmed the non-relevant items. Semi-transparent. This is semi-transparent, right? This is called cross-highlighting. The cross-highlighting is not applicable for all the visuals. That's why I included matrix here. Okay, next one is, okay, so so then why do I need a slicer? With this itself, I can see, for example, if I select these three, right? If I select these three, and if I select only frozen foods, I can see it here. Or let's say I just select Chennai here. Instead of selecting Chennai here, location, I just select here. I just select here. This itself tells me what is the total sales and which all categories we made sales. We can see that. So why do I need? This is the next question. We discussed about cross filtering. Why we started discussing this? Because Power BI is by default has it's interactive one. The Power BI reporter by default it is interactive. In that case, why do I need a slicer? Why should I apply filter using slicer? When my visual itself applies the filter, it displays the relevant items and non-relevant. Why do I need this one? Supposing, let's say I am going to make a selection here. I just go and select dry fruits. Let us do one thing. I just select frozen foods. This one got highlighted now, and all the other visuals, it highlighted the relevant values. For the non-relevant items, it did not do anything. Cross highlighting is possible with matrix also. Okay, now if I go here, if I select it, my selection state, what are the selection I made it earlier, it has gone, right? I selected the frozen foods or dry for frozen foods, right? I just selected frozen foods. when I clicked my mouse elsewhere, this selection is gone. The selection is gone. It is not maintaining the selection state. Okay, but if you use slicer, for example, here I select frozen foods. I was selecting the frozen foods. Okay, in Chennai we did not sell under frozen foods, or let's say in Hyderabad, if I select it, okay, it is visible, right? If I change my selection here, for example, if I do make some changes here, but still the selection state is maintained here, you get to know, right? So what kind of filter we applied it, since it maintains the selection state, right? So you will get to know that. Whereas here, when you click on, when in the case of cross highlighting, right, without using slicer, if you use the visuals, right, to interact with other visuals, right, using cross highlighting, you can do that. But when you select elsewhere, the selection state is not maintained. Hence, slicer is very much helpful. Okay, so now we will see what are the options that are available with, or what are the features that are available with the slicer. I just click on here, so you can see you have the drop down option here. You have list and drop down. By default, the display of the slicer is list here. In the case of text data, text variable, okay, the category is a text and location is a text. By default, for the text variable, the slicer type is list. You can change it to drop down also. But drop down, you need to click on this drop down and see what all the items are there in this slicer. You need to click on here, and if you select, you can make a selection like how you made it, and if you want to unselect it, you can click on this. So now the question is, when should I use list, when should I use drop down? If you use drop down, the advantage is you can save space. It does not consume too much of space. But this is very much intuitive. The list one is very much helpful. But if you have more number of values are there in your list, you need to keep scroll down, right? So better you can go for drop down to save space. Okay, fine. And this is to unselect or clear the selections, whatever you made it. Okay, and this is the focus mode. If I click on this, you can see this one is this slicer alone in this page, or any visual. This is available for all the visuals and including the matrix. And the next one is you can find this filter icon. So this filter icon, you can find it on top of all the visuals. For example, when I select beverages, when I make any selection here, and if you go to all the visuals, right, on top of each visual in this, right, you can see which filter controls these visuals. You can get to know that. So this is helpful for troubleshooting also, right? You can find, so which filter, if you apply multiple filter using more slicer, you will get confused, right? To get to know at one point in time what kind of filters or slices that are affecting these, you will get to know that. Okay, this is for the text data, right? How we can, what are the options that are available? We have seen it. I just simply copy paste it. Okay, let it be there. I just unselect it. So now let us go and explore the formatting option here. Here, if you go here, selection controls, there's something called single select off. You can toggle it from off to on with this. But when you do this, what happens here is, instead of having the check box, it converts a radio button. with the radio button you can select only one item at any given point. You cannot make a selection to more than one item here. So in that case, right, so I'm not happy with this one because checkbox enable me to select more than one item. I want the slicers to enable me to check more than one item. In that case, you can toggle this to off. Then why did they keep this option here? Why did they keep this one? So let's say you have a use case. You want to create a slicer wherein you want to use the sex column, male or female. It should have only the male and female. Okay, so the user should select either male or female only. They are not supposed to select both. In that kind of situation, you can use this one, single select. Single select, you can enable it to on in that kind of use case. Remember that. Okay, next one is multi select with control. If you want to select more than one, if you want to make multiple selection, I need to hold my control key in my keyboard. It is not user friendly, right? So what you do is you can toggle it to off. So now without holding the control key in my keyboard, I'm able to select more than one item here. So I just disabled it, and show select all option. If you enable it, right, you will find something like select all. If you want to select everything, you can click on select all. The other one is if you clear the selections, right, displays everything. It removes all the filter. Okay, so when it is required, why don't you think and tell me when it is required? Select all. So do we really need select all? When I have this option to remove the filter, that is enough. Why do I need select all? Okay, this is another option, that's all. Okay, not nothing much to discuss about this. And the next one is, if I go here, I have search option is available, search icon. Let's say in this case hardly we have 5 categories are there. If you have 15 or 25 categories are there, it is painful to scroll down and find out the item that we are interested in. Instead, what you do is with the search feature, you can, for example, I am interested in selecting frozen foods. I want to apply filters to my report page using with the frozen foods, right? I can select it by typing it. You can easily find out. Like how we can search the fields under the fields pane here. Right, I'm talking about this one, right? So here we instead of typing it, we can search it. This can speed up in terms of finding out the columns, right? Columns location. It automatically, right? So it helps us to find out this. The same thing, is available here also. Okay. Next one is I'm going to create date slicer here. Okay, before I proceed with the date slicer, we have some more thing to discuss here. Let us do one thing. I just keep this side by side here to explain this. Look here. Here we have 3 cities, and how many categories are there? I just probably resize it. When I select, when I make a selection to this city, what are the categories that we sold it in this city, right? We can see it here. Slicer is also visual. When you apply a filter using the slicer, right, the entire report page got refreshed to display the data relevant to this selection. This is also slicer. This is also visual, right? Since slicer is also visual, This filter is applied to this slicer. Look here. This slicer is getting affected by this visual, right? You can see that. So the filter from location name slicer, applied on my slicer. That is what we can understand here. So you can we can filter the slices also. Okay. Supposing I just deselect this, and if I select the frozen foods, Chennai should not be there here. Okay, so bidirectional filtering. Look here, dry fruits. Okay, since we have only 3 cities, right? Let me do one thing. If I select frozen foods, already selected, sorry. I unselect frozen foods. We did not sell it in Hyderabad. It is not applying the filter here. If I do it this way, it is possible, but from here to here, it is not possible, right? I just unselect it. This is called cascading. When I apply the filter using a slicer, right, it controls other slices also. This is called cascading slicer, or this is called cascading. Okay, this is called cascading, but it is not happening the opposite side. So that is when we need to go to the model here, and you go and check, do we have the cross filter direction enabled to both or not here. So we have a location here, and we are talking about category, right? So since we have enabled the bidirectional relationship, right, between these dimensions and fact table, we are able to filter the category by the location. So location can, but the opposite is not possible, because here we don't see any bidirectional filter. For example, if I enable bidirection here, now category can filter location. I just go here. Now I want this one to filter this one. For example, if I select Hyderabad, see, it is filtering it. But when I select Chennai, in Chennai only 3, right? So now it is applying the filter here. So bidirectional cascading is happening here. Since we have enabled bidirectional, it is. So now the question is, when I configure the bidirectional relationship as both, right? So when I enable bidirectional relationship by configuring it using the manage relationship, or right, so this is the dialog box. This is where we go and change it to both. Sorry, here I just sorry, this is location, right? Yes, location, and this one, if we edit here, see, we made it both. So we have to go and manually change it here, and this one will remain this bidirectional relationship. See, since we enabled it manually here, this bidirectional relationship property will get enabled forever. Okay, let it be there. What is going to happen? It will cause a serious performance issue. It will get into some kind of looping. It is not advisable to go and enable the bidirection relationship, or as both, right? So manually you are not supposed to enable the bidirectional relationship, because it causes performance issues. Programmatically you can use it. So that is what I discussed as part of the cross filtering session. In the past I discussed about that. For example, what is cross filtering? So by default, say in the case of star schema, let us assume in the case of star schema, the filter direction, if you see, right, so from the dimension to fact table, right, the dimension case flows from dimension table to the fact tables in the unidirection. Look at this unidirection. From the dimension table to fact table, we can see the direction, the downward arrow, right? It flows from dimension to fact tables in all the things. Since it is a snowflake schema, this dimension is not linked directly to this fact table. Okay, to enable bidirectional relationship manually, going to the manage relationship also, right, it will cause severe performance issue. What is the solution for this? Number one solution is we can create some measure. We can use cross filter function that is available as part of DAX, using which we can dynamically enable the bidirectional relationship between the tables temporarily, right? If you do it anything programmatically to enable the configuration settings, right, to bidirection, so in that case, only till the usage, right? The moment when you use it, it will get activated. The moment when you don't use this slicer, it will not get activated. But when you go and do it, when you configure it manually, it will be there forever. Okay, it will cause serious. So the first solution is you can create a measure so that programmatically you can enable the bidirectional relation on a temporary basis. The other option is, okay, you don't have any other option, right? So in this case, what you can do is, right, you can do denormalization. In this case, you can do denormalization. But in this case, if you want to filter, let's say you denormalize this, both the tables, both the dimension tables data are available in the single dimension table. By doing the denormalization, fine. Let's assume that you have only single dimension that is available. With this, you can filter the fact table. Let's assume that you have down arrow only here, okay? No upward arrow, okay? So unidirection here. In that case, you can filter the sales table using product table. Here also it is possible with with location dimension, you can filter the fact tables, but the opposite is not possible. In any case, right, even if you do denormalize, right, still when it comes here, but there is an option here, okay? So here, let's say I'm going to remove all these bidirection configuration. I create a measure, okay? I create a measure. So that measure, I just go and copy it as part of this table and this table's filtering option. You have something called filter, okay? I can apply it there so that it will get enabled temporarily. So the number one option is you can denormalize it. So even if you denormalize it, since these two tables don't have any direct relationship, you cannot filter the product table using location dimension and vice versa. If you want to filter the product table using the location dimension, then you need to enable bidirectional relationship where between these two, okay? It will be a little bit confusing, probably you can pause in my video for this time, right? At this time, right? For this specific time, you can pause it and then you can, play back it so that you should be able to understand. See, the whole idea here is if I apply a filter, right? If I apply, if I make any selection here, which means, I want to apply the filter for the Chennai city, all the visuals should get refreshed relevant to Chennai data, including this slicer. It was not happening this way because location and category table, these two dimensions were not directly linked here. Only after I enable, if I enable the bidirection between these two, now I can filter the category dimension using location dimension. Anyhow, writing measure, we will see it later, because once I cover the filters concept, you will be able to understand. And the next one is, it's already 7:06. Tomorrow what we will do is we'll continue with the other types of slices, date slicer and number slicer, hierarchy slicer, and so on. And then we will continue with the different types of filters that are available, and followed by that we will see drill through, and then we will continue the key influencer and key influencer and decomposition tree, visuals. Okay, we'll continue the rest of the topics. Any questions so far? Okay, since you don't have any questions, I will upload the video, but give me some time, probably after 2 hours, right? I will upload this, because I need to rush to some